Hi there, I'm John Underhill, and this is the Red Special Guitar Podcast. Hello and welcome back to the Red Special Guitar Podcast. Now, each week I ask for feedback, and I have a little pun where I provide some feedback from my amp. But this week I've actually had some feedback in the form of an email from a young man named Charles, who's a 14-year-old Filipino fan. Charles goes on to tell me that he got inspired by Brian May after watching the Bohemian Rhapsody movie, and he's amazed that the guitar has so many vast array of tones and the fact it's homemade and that it's still being used 57 years later. Charles really would like a guitar himself, but is unable to purchase one, so he's looking at compiling plans so that he's ready so he can build his own. And he got really excited at seeing this show, the podcast, available on Spotify, but unfortunately he doesn't have technology to be able to download it on Spotify, so he reached out and asked if we could add a YouTube channel, which we did, and Charles has now been able to catch up with the podcast, and he sends his thanks and warm wishes for the future. So we do actually now have the podcast available on YouTube, so you can head over to our YouTube channel and check that out. There'll be a link in the description below, and that means if you want to listen to it or watch it, not that there's any moving pictures at the moment, you can do that too. And the second announcement I'd like to make before we get into our guest is that after taking some advice as how to grow the channel and get some more episodes out more frequently, I have had to increase the hosting plan for the podcast. So with that in mind, I have created a Patreon account, which I will link in the description below, and you can all head over and check that out if you choose to, and that means that you can help support the channel grow by donating a small amount of money each month to help towards the costs of running the channel. There are several different tiers, and each one comes with some different rewards and bonuses for your support, and I just want to say thank you to the one patron I have at time of recording. You absolutely rock, and thank you very much for believing in me and believing in the podcast. Today on the Red Special Podcast, I would like to welcome a friend of mine who loves chips and mayo. It is Gerben. Gerben, hello, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I am very good. I'd like to tell everyone I'm not with Gerben, and very unfortunately we're using Zoom, and he is not eating chips and mayo as we speak, which is most upsetting.
I must admit that I have a little bowl of mayo next to me in case my throat goes a bit sore because of talking.
I've got water, you've got mayo. Excellent.
Absolutely.
So Gerben, thank you very much for agreeing to be part of this, and for your time. It's much appreciated. I know you will have been upset not to have come to the UK meetup this year.
Yep. We would have loved to come along, yes.
Yeah. It's COVID's been a terrible time. Has it affected you much with your teaching?
No, not really. In the Netherlands, there's some sort of rule by the government that the primary schools could stay open. That seems reasonably safe for both children and teachers. So my life didn't really change that much over the past year.
Okay, and you've been keeping safe and well?
Yes.
Wonderful. So, for those that don't know Gerben has been a forum member for longer than I care to remember, and probably longer than he cares to remember too. But Gerben has an interesting story, and I'm going to ask him some questions about that. So Gerben, tell me about the first time you remember hearing the first Queen track and what it was.
I can't remember the exact moment, but it must have been around 1991, I guess. I'm not sure if it had to do with Freddie's passing, but it was a time I was 11 years old, 91, and some rock bands really were really good, like Bon Jovi, Guns N' Roses, Queen was still very popular.
Yep.
So I kind of grew into that music, started playing guitar around that age. So I can't really pick an exact moment, but it could well be a song like The Show Must Go On, maybe. I think it was an innuendo track.
Yeah. And were you aware then of? I mean, did you hear the music and then like think, who is that, or was it a bit more you're older, so you're like, oh, that's Queen?
Yes, in the beginning I didn't know who they were, so I started to find out, and a concert that was played quite a lot on television that day in the Netherlands was the Budapest gig, which
Yep.
was literally quite magic to see to me. Um, yeah, I watched it many times with a friend of mine, and yeah, it slowly sucked me into Queen. It got me excited, and I was really interested in about that magical guitar because I didn't know anything about it. It wasn't a Les Paul, it wasn't a Strat, and so I found out okay, it was homemade, and I'd never seen any close-up pictures. So I was also thinking, what the hell are those? 6 screws are doing over there on the scratch plate. I thought they were screws. I didn't know anything about it, but it interested me, so I had to know more about it.
So an 11-year-old Gerben back in the 90s. Obviously, the internet starts to come alive. Where do you turn for your information at that point before the internet's massive and has loads of information on it?
A friend of mine was quite a big Queen and Brian May fan, and he collected a lot of albums and magazines. And at some point, it must have been the late 90s, he told me there was a Guild Brian May for sale in a guitar shop not too far away from my home. And especially for the younger people listening, there wasn't too much activity on internet yet. And especially there weren't too many high-end copies around. So if you could find a Guild Brian May 93 model in a shop, that was pretty rare to find, I think. I think it was the only one in the Netherlands at that point as well. So I had to go to that shop, and yeah, I saw it over there, and I was hooked, of course. So I just had to have it. I also remember it was. Still remember the price. It was 5,390 guilders at that point. We didn't have euros yet, and I was a 17-year-old guy, so I couldn't afford it by far. So I very kindly asked my mother if I could borrow for once in my life quite a sum of money, and I promised the shop owner to give him my Mexican Strat, my Epiphone Les Paul, and my Marshall Valve State, and all my pedals, because I just had to have that guitar. And my mother borrowed me the money. I'm still thankful for that. So, Mom, if you're listening, thanks again. So that was my start.
I thought for a minute there you were going to say you were still paying her back.
I just finished last week, so I'm fine.
Yeah. Takes payment in chips and mayo. No.
Yeah.
So without your mum then and being generous, you wouldn't have ended up with that guild.
True. Yep.
So your mum's got a lot to answer for.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. And that same friend who pointed the guitar out to me, he also showed me the website of, I think it was called Brian May World at the time, the black and red website, and the Pete Cornish website. So I spent a lot of time on those websites the first few years, and well, through that channel I met people like Mark Reynolds and Martin Pitcher, Mike Wright, and Peter Michelovsky. So we got in contact, and well, Peter forced me to spend all my money on gear, and so we went.
He does that to lots of people.
Yeah.
So 17-year-old Gerben ends up with a 93 guild.
Yes.
And so then obviously you end up online, and what's the next purchase for you? You start playing, obviously, and you're learning Queen songs, but what's the next thing you end up buying to help you with your quest?
Well, I soon found out that just having the Guild Brian May didn't really give me the sound we were all after. So I think I bought a Trace Elliott amp back then. It was called a C30 if I remember well, and it was supposed to be some sort of AC30 copy, but
Yep.
it didn't really do the job. I bought a cheap treble booster somewhere, but what I didn't know at that time is that the amp really had to be cranked to give that sound, and I didn't know about attenuators at that time. So with the amp on a really low bedroom volume, the treble booster, well, it gave a very harsh sound, so it didn't do the job. So the amp had to go, and after that I bought my first AC30, and then Peter forced me to buy a second one, and then Peter forced me to buy a third one, and so I thought, okay, treble booster, 3 amps, now I'm finished. And then he told me, no, we're not finished, because you gotta have a splitter and you gotta have a G major. And he was so clever to not tell me all of that. So all the time I had to spend a bit extra, and finally we got there some years later.
I'm sure there's still something on your list though, if you were to
Always.
take a look.
Yeah.
The quest is never over, that's for sure. So there's obviously a moment where you realise that you have to crank the amps, and I mean, like all of us, you've probably done that. And I know when I first did it, I cranked my AC3. I turned the amp on, plugged the treble booster in, cranked the amp, and you're like, this sounds, the hiss coming out of this, it can't sound right, and it's ridiculously loud.
Yes.
It's an interesting one, but unless you go through that and then start to turn the guitar volume up and use it the way Brian does, you kind of don't ever really get to that ballpark. So, but it's a leap of faith, I think, from reading it online to actually doing it and then being in the room with it. Because I don't know about you, but the first time I ever did it, the whole house shook, and I thought I'd broken the amp.
Yeah, I recognize that experience. Yes. Yes, but also the first time I really cranked it up loud, it also gave that feeling of puzzle pieces falling together. I don't know if that's an English expression, but like okay, this is how it should sound. The speakers really had to work for the first time, and I think they play quite a big part in the overall sound as well. So it all came together. And I also must say that I always thought that a single AC30 sounds a bit dry somehow. And the friend I was talking about, he had an AC32 at one point. So on a Sunday afternoon, we thought we should try them together and put a chorus between them. And that was really an aha moment for me. Like, okay, now it all comes together. This is the sound. Yeah, I remember Pete Melendrone saying in an interview once, it's all about the Red Special, treble boost, and AC30, and the rest is fairy dust. But to me, it's 2 AC30s with a chorus, and the rest is fairy dust. It makes quite a difference to the human ear somehow. It does a big thing if there's a chorus in between.
Yeah, it's pretty magical when you get it right as well, and that first time it's difficult to explain without necessarily being there or having had experienced it. But that first time you have 2 AC30s cranked with the chorus on one, dry signal on the other, and you start playing stuff. One, I don't know. It seems to it makes me play better. Maybe that's because it sounds better, so I'm enjoying playing it, and therefore I play better. But yes, it also seems to cover things up a bit better for me as well if I make a mistake. I don't know.
Yeah, I understand. It works the same for me.
So that's a pretty magical moment then. So after that first go with your friend, you must have then decided to buy another AC30 and a chorus pedal.
Yes.
And a splitter and spend some more money.
Yeah, and then came the moment that I got fed up with my guild, to be honest.
Oh no.
It was a beautiful looking guitar, but it seriously lacked sustain. I heard it more often. I played a few on separate meetups as well, and not all of them had that problem, but quite a few had some sustained problems to my ears. It was around 2006, I think, and well, all the people I've been knowing for a few years by then, like Mark and Mike and Martin and Peter, they all had KZ guitars, so I really had to go for that one. So I sold my guild to fund a bit for the KZ, because I didn't dare ask my mother again, of course. But I was working at the time, so I was quite fine. So I bought a KZ Junior, and that one arrived in 2007, and that's the guitar I still have.
So I can see it behind you through Zoom, and it's not got the original. It's not got the original KZ Junior bridge. It has a original style roller bridge on it. Is that something you did, or is that something you asked KZ to do for you?
It was installed later on. If I would have known that it could have been ordered already, I would have done it that way. I think Sean did it, ordered it with a Pro Bridge already. And he told me later on, but I already got this one. So I bought the, I think Kazuteka called it the Pro Bridge kit. So I bought it from him, and I took it to a local luthier, and he installed it. And then after that, lots of modifications were done about the guitar. Not to exaggerate, but apart from the wood and the tremolo, there's not much original on it anymore. There's really done a lot on it.
So have you done any of it yourself, or have you used the same luthier throughout the time you've had it to do those mods?
The simple things I've done myself, like changing the tuning machines. The originals were Goto, if I remember well, and so there are Scheller tuners now, the locking ones Brian has. Different trem tip I did myself. That was easy, of course, but the internal stuff and the electrical stuff is all done by others. The pickups were changed. They were Edison's already, but I sent them to Adrian back in the day, and he made a super spec set of them, and different casings on them, the original casings, because I think they were Kent Armstrong casings maybe on the first batch.
More than likely.
Yeah. Yep. So he put also the original casings on them, and I rubbed them a bit with the surface a bit with sandpaper to make them a bit less shiny, which I like. I've got some original Jean Renault switches on them. I bought from Manuel in Spain, I think, a long time ago. A few mods had to be done on the aluminium switch plate to make the switches fit in. So that had to be done, and Corrado in Italy made a new scratch plate for the guitar, because So
it really isn't the same guitar then?
No.
And are you happy with it now?
Yes, still. To be honest, not because I own one, but to me it's my favorite Red Special to play. I've played quite a lot of Gaitons and Pros and Densons and whatever, all beautiful guitars, but I've got quite small hands, and the Junior, and that's does make a difference to the Super, for instance, because they're very much alike. This one has a bit thinner neck, and that's what I like. It's still a very thick neck. It's still way fatter than the thickest Gibson or Fender necks ever made, so still a serious bet to hold, but it's the best for my hands.
Good. So I can see. I'd say again, I can see it behind you, and I can see that the neck is slightly thinner as it goes up. And is it what's the finish on the fretboard, Gerben? Is that a lacquered finish, or is it?
Yes, it's lacquered. Yes.
But it's definitely not the same guitar you had when it arrived all that time ago.
No, just like I said before, it's almost like only the wood and the trem are original, and most of the rest is replaced. 0 fret has been replaced. The nut has been replaced as well. not that it was necessary, but it had to be. I don't know if I pronounce it well, but Bakelite.
Yep. So you changed it for more authentic nut material.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're happy with it now, then?
Still, yes. Very nice guitar.
Good. I don't think it's ever made it to the meetup, has it?
No. I'm still thinking about bringing it one time. A few years ago, I visited Martin Pitcher at his place for a weekend, and then I took it along. It was quite a hassle to take it on the plane because, they were making a bit of a problem of it when I took it along. So I put it inside a bag and wrapped it in bubble wrap, but you had to put it in the overhead lockers. But there are also other persons on the plane who are pushing really hard to get their backpack in. So it was a bit of a stressful moment, to be honest. So I was happy when it arrived home safely again.
Yeah, no, understand. No, it's interesting hearing that what you've done to it over the years to make it more authentic to the original. Knowing what you know now, would you still have bought it, or would you have had another luthier make one with a thinner neck that's more accurate?
That's a good one. I considered I considered buying a Guyton for a long time, but not that I'm a guitar collector, but I do have a few nice guitars, and I thought, is it worth selling them all to get a Guyton, which is of course a bit more accurate, but on the other hand, I compared it to Martin's Guyton, and they sound very, very similar. I wouldn't dare doing an A/B test.
Yeah.
The only thing I never liked about the Junior or Supers is the wood grain on the surface. It's a bit stripy. There are some dark stripes. It's less quality veneer for the looks.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that when I see a Guyton or a KZ Pro that I think, yes, that's just looking nicer.
Fair enough. Well, it's an interesting one. I think when we all started off on this back in the early 2000s on the forum, we've all spent a lot of time, effort and money on stuff that we thought was going to be the closest thing, and then you realise a few years later, no, that's not the right thing. We need to sell that and spend some more money on something else.
Yep.
It's quite an expensive hobby, really.
Absolutely.
But so you
ask my ex-wife.
Yeah. People often ask me why I do it and why I keep trying to improve on it or keep trying to get the next thing, and is it Emperor's New Clothes or is it actually making a difference? But I think there's that element of if I have all the stuff that I'm happy with and I know is to be as accurate as it can be, I have no excuse when I pick the guitar up and play to not sound the way I want it to. And there's probably a funny way around trying to sort of rationalize it for anyone, but I feel if I've got all the same stuff, then the reason I don't sound like it is because of me, and then I don't have any excuses apart from practice.
True.
But if I don't have all the right kit, then I can quite easily go, well, that's because that's not the right thing. So I think that's at least that's how I sleep at night when I check my bank balance. But so your story though, you obviously have been a devout forum member for a long time, and you've also come to pretty much every meetup that's ever been had in the UK, because there isn't one in the Netherlands. Tell me about the first meetup you came to and how that felt and what that was like for you.
The first meetup I visited was 2010. It was in Hakkelskoot, if I remember well, at Mark's place. Before my first meetup, I'd been a member of the forum for about 7 or 8 years, I think. And the first meetups were around 2007, 8, I think, something like that.
Yeah, Adam Bent did the very first one in Sheffield, which I think was a little bit earlier, and there was maybe 2 of those, and then it died off for a bit, and then Matt Wicks did 1 or 2, and then Mark started doing them, and then it went away for a little bit. But I think yeah.
Okay, and around that time, the pictures of the meetups showed up on the forum, and slowly those meetups became more. They became bigger, and suddenly I saw pictures of the Pete Cornish pedalboard coming along, and the Birch guitar, and that was a moment for me when I thought, okay, it's not going to happen again that I'm missing out on one. So I really got to go there next year. So that's how it went. So 2010 was the first one. I think it was a very nice one to go to the first one, because the original Dickie amp showed up, which was really interesting. The first meetup was it was nice to meet some people to which you already spoke for a lot of years, like Mark and Peter and Martin and Mike and Sean, Matt, of course.
Don't forget Matt.
How could we? How could we ever forget him?
No, never could.
He will never forget me as well from that meetup, because I wore white trousers, but that's another story.
I remember. Yeah, it is a story that it's one of those fables from the forum.
That should be a different podcast, I think. We could easily fill an hour with that one.
Yep.
But that was the first one, and like I said, it was very nice to finally meet the people you spoke to for years already, and the guys who helped you out with everything. So that was very nice experience. And the years after that, it really became a friendship thing. So I cared less about the gear that would show up at the meetups every year, and for now it's like if there wouldn't be anything guitar related and it would just be all the friends together, I would still book a flight and come along, because that's the main thing by now. It's not about the gear anymore. Of course, it's very interesting if people bring new things along which they made, or Nigel comes up with something, or Andy Guyton. It's very nice, of course, but it's not the thing I would go for. That wouldn't be the main reason anymore. It's more the friendship by now, just sitting in the bar at night and just having a lot of fun with friends, and that's what it's all about.
Definitely, and I think when I started arranging them, when was that, 2016 or 17? I can't remember now. One of those 2 years. That's the main reason why I did it, was to get everyone back together again and get the people that I've spoken to and missed talking to, and get everyone together in the same room so we can all have a chat and have a drink and enjoy the night before on a Friday, having a few drinks, but not too many, Sean, so that you can understand what's going on the next day. Yeah. And then the meetup is very much a byproduct of just getting everyone together, really.
Yeah.
And anything that happens that's been special in any meetup, it, to me, is just an absolute bonus. And I think it's a testament to the group of people that are interested in this, how we've all become friends over the years. And I say this in every podcast, so people probably get bored of me saying it, but I always think back to how none of that is possible without Brian and Harold, or young Brian May, talking to his dad about wanting to buy an electric guitar, and Harold saying, well, I think we can build one better than what they can buy for the money, and them setting about building this Red Special guitar. And I wonder if Brian's ever really considered that, or whether, I mean, I've considered it, I know other people have, but you know, whether or not they were having a joke and a laugh at one point building it and saying, oh, imagine if I become a rock star. And it's to me, it's become much more than that, and it's turned into the friends I have throughout the meetups and the forum, and the Red Special is more important, definitely more important than the guitar itself.
Yes, agree.
It's just nice to hear other people have the same experience.
Yeah, I think it's also quite a unique thing. I sometimes wonder if there's something similar in the world for another guitarist.
It's something I've looked for actually, and I've spent some time talking to some other forum members about this, and we can't find. I mean, personally, I can't find anything that matches this in any way. There's some forums that I belong to that look at the like details of other things, but none that have such a strong bond of friendship, and also have the interaction from like Nigel Bryan's. For those of you that don't know, Nigel Knight from Knight Audio Technologies, who does all of Bryan's treble boosters and electronics and routing, and now makes his amps for him, and Pete Malandrone, who is Bryan's guitar tech, and Andy Guyton, who looks after the Red Special and builds copies, and all of these people that are around Bryan turn up at these meetups, not because we invite them, but in fact I don't think I've ever invited Nigel or Pete to come. They've just arrived, and probably ought to have a word with them about that. But no, it's just so nice to think that they want, they're aware of it and they turn up and they offer their time, and they are genuinely interested in us and trying to help us out, and we've got a strong connection to knowing what's going on in terms of Bryan's rig, more so than any other guitarist, I think.
Yeah, true.
We're very lucky. But you have your own story with Bryan, I believe.
Yeah, true.
That's so how did that all come about? Because he asked you if he could borrow your white trousers. I mean,
that's where it all started.
Yeah.
I didn't share that part on the internet, so I wonder how you found that out, but okay.
I wouldn't like to say, not on a podcast. No, so yeah. Gerben, how did you get to end up meeting Brian May and him playing your guitar and rig live?
Since 2006, there was an organization in the Netherlands who came up with an guitarist award. It was called the Eddie Christiani Award. Eddie Christiani was he passed away a few years ago. He was a Dutch guitar player. It is said that he was the first electric guitar player in 1939, if I remember well. Good year, by the way, 39. And those awards went every year to some great Dutch guitarists. And the most famous to international people is probably Adrian Vandenberg. So he got one, and a few other good guitarists. Jan Ackerman as well might ring a bell for you, and a few others. And in 2010, they managed to get an international big name, which was Steve Lukather from Toto. So he received the award, and he seemed to have a great time in that night when he received the award and played a few songs with the band. So then they wanted to take it one step further in 2011, and they asked Queen Productions if it was possible to get Brian May there, because Queen is always has always been a very popular band in the Netherlands. So they wanted to try to get Brian May. I remember Brian saying he wasn't really sure if he should go, so he phoned Steve Lukather to ask what it was like, and Steve answered, "It's really great, do it." So then Brian decided to go. How did I find out? I searched on a website. It's called Marketplace. It's a Dutch website where you can sell and buy stuff. And suddenly I noticed there was someone selling tickets for the Eddie Christiani Award with Brian May. And somehow I missed about that news. So I started to search what it was about, and I decided to call the organizer, because I live in the far north of the country, the Frisian outback. Ask Luke Holward for it, and Holwarda, sorry. ask him, and he knows about it. And this award was in the far south of the country. Well, the country isn't that big, but it was like a 3.5 hour drive. And I was thinking, well, would it be like receiving an award, saying thank you very much, and going off? Would that be worth the trip? So I thought I called the organizer just to ask what the plan is. So I called this guy called Cor de Jonge, and I think we spoke for more than an hour, because there was a huge, we call it a click. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we had a nice chat, and he really got excited because of my story of owning some sort of Brian May rig and having some pedals and amps being modified by some of Brian's technicians, and he got really excited. And at some point he said, "You know what we're going to do?" Brian wasn't sure if he would like to play guitar. So he said, "If you promise me that you show up on the day of that, if you show up the whole weekend with all your gear, I pay for your hotel and your fuel and your meals, and I'll make sure everything is arranged for you as long as you show up with all your stuff, and maybe we can make Brian play." So that was an easy deal to me. So in April I drove to the south in a borrowed car of my neighbor, a big station wagon, because all the gear didn't fit in my car, so I had to borrow someone else's car. And I drove to the south, and some people were like, I remember my family saying, "Are you really sure you're going to do this? Isn't it some sort of scam, and people trying to set you up and steal your gear, or is this for real?" I trusted it was for real, so I went there, and I arrived on a Friday night, and I had to set up the rig in the theater on the Friday night as well. And on Saturday, before Brian showed up, we had to do some tests with the gear and try everything out. And suddenly we got a call from Brian's PA, I think, because Brian wanted to know about the gear, if it was set up and if it was okay, because he would like to try it out before the show, and then and after the test he would go to his hotel to do some interviews with Dutch television and then come back for the show. So he came along. He came through the back entrance of the theater. So there were hundreds of people in front of the theater, and no one was allowed to be in except a few. I was there for the rig, of course, and a famous Dutch rock band, Van Velzen, was there as well, because they were supposed to play a few songs with Brian. And suddenly he came through the back door, with some bodyguards, of course, and we had a nice chat with the guys from Van Velzen, and he spent a lot of time testing the rig. I think, well, if I remember well, like 45 minutes maybe. He really took his time to try everything, and he asked me, could you try another booster, and could you try a dial a bit on this and that? And after a while he was happy with it, and he then left for his interviews, and at night he got the award, gave a beautiful speech, and after that he played a few songs with Van Velzen, and I was backstage, and I couldn't stop pinching myself, because one of my major dreams came true, which was meeting Brian May, and exactly a few months later my second big dream came true, and that was playing Brian's original guitar, but that was another story. So that's how it went.
So not too bad then. So if I remember what booster, not that it really matters, but he picked a purple booster.
Yes, true. Dan Thomas is now the proud owner of it. I see the booster every year.
Yeah.
He always takes it along. I think I took along a few boosters because I wasn't really sure if Brian would be satisfied with the sound as I use attenuators, which Brian obviously doesn't. So I thought, okay, if I use attenuators, it might give a bit less overdrive because the speakers don't work as hard. So I thought I should take a few powerful boosters along. So I thought let's start gentle. So I plugged in a Touring because I knew he was using that at the time. And he thought it lacked a bit of gain. So he said, is there a way to get a bit more out of the amps? So I then plugged in the deluxe booster, the Fryer, the purple one. And then he was happy or just polite.
How did you find him? I mean, it must be, for him, I'd imagine, I don't know, you're there as Brian May and you turn up to this place and some bloke's got a pretty nigh-on replica of your guitar and all the stuff he uses. Did he sort of mention it was slightly odd, or how did he take it? Was he...
I do remember I asked him, does it look a bit at home, like home, something like that. I asked him. I was a bit nervous, so I probably said some terrible things to him. Well, there was no reason to be nervous, by the way, because that should be mentioned maybe. He always seems like a very friendly and down-to-earth guy in interviews, and I should agree. He really is. Within a few moments, it's like speaking to your uncle or something. He made some remark about a TV program where they copy the furniture of your house or something. I can't remember the name of it anymore, but that's what he referred to. It's a bit like a moment like this, he said.
Yeah, well, that's good. And he was genuinely pretty nice to you and grateful for going. What did he make of your guitar? Which one was it? Was it the KZ Junior he played through, or was it you?
Yes, yeah. It was the KZ. Yes, and I'm quite a gentle player. The Junior, if you see it one day, if you take a close look at the scratch plate, for instance, it almost looks like new. And I've had the guitar for many years now, so I am quite a gentle player. Brian is too, but he seems to hit a bit more plastic and pickups. So I remember there were a few scratches just above the lower E string, which I noticed after him playing. So we had a bit of email contact a few days after the show, because I wanted to thank him for using my rig, and so I told him about the scratches, and I said I really liked the scratches, and so he emailed me back like, I'm sorry for the scratches. Is there anything I can do in return to help you repair it? Or so that was very friendly. So I answered to him, don't worry about it. There are only two persons in the world who are allowed to make scratches on my guitar, and that's you and me. So I'm fine with it. So then he replied something like, "You're a good soul. See you next time."
Yeah,
something like
lovely.
that.
What a fantastic experience, Gerben.
Yes.
Very lucky.
Absolutely. Yes.
Don't hate you at all. And then you mentioned in your story there that you also then a few months later got to play the original Red Special, which was at the Red Special meetup that year, hosted by Mike Ride.
Yes.
How was that then, playing the original?
It was, yeah. Well, you hear it already. I can't even find the words for it. It was unique, of course. We knew it was a very special moment for all of us, and likely that it would never happen again. So it was. I think it was also very nice of Brian to have the faith in us in a way, to trust us with his guitar. I think that was pretty special by itself already. Also, if we only were allowed to look at it, that would have been very special to me already. But we were allowed to play it, and I played it for a few minutes. What was really interesting to see that if you really take a close look at all the detailed parts, you can really see it's being made with handmade tools and the filled woodworm holes, and that was really nice to see. And there were a lot of more dents and scratches than you see on up close pictures. So yeah, it was just a piece of rock history that you were holding in your hands. And I remember it also. I've got a video on YouTube playing the Bohemian Rhapsody solo, I think. Well, trying to. And we were only allowed to play it with a pick, but to me it's still a unique sounding guitar. It's got a natural brightness that no other copy has, to my ears. It might be a bit between my ears as well, but especially when I played some out of phase parts, it really sounded like, okay, this is the original guitar. I never heard mine or another one that had the same scream somehow, even with pick.
It's talked about quite a lot actually, because I think whenever I pick up a Red Special, I always try the bridge and middle in phase, and then I always jump to the neck and middle out phase. And it's the screamy sound that I think is the hardest to get right with the pickup settings and pickups. And I always wonder whether there's some secret sauce hidden away in the Red Special that we don't know about, that we think we do, or whether or not there's something else going on there that we're unaware of. Because everyone that's played the original says that screamy sound is just iconic, and I'd say we get to like 90 to 95% of the way there with our copies, but that extra little bit, it's just very difficult to find.
Yes. Maybe a bit of the charm as well, but we just can't get that 100%.
Yeah.
But we do get very close these days.
We do, a lot closer than we used to back in the early 2000s.
Because also when I listen back to the recordings of Brian playing my rig, that sound was way too dull. But at that time, I didn't know as much as I know now about pickup heights and microphone positions. So all those little things I've changed over the years, and I think it sounds closer as well now.
Definitely. And I would say to anyone that it's those little details that add up that make the difference to the overall sound, and it's very much the science of marginal gains, where that 2% there and 2% there and 2% there all add up to make a bigger change to the overall sound. And it's not till you really start to study it, like some of us have with different mic positions, different amps, speakers, attenuators, volume, treble boosters, signal path, pickup heights, phase posts inside the guitar, even the cable you're using or wireless, what type of lead, how long is it, the capacitance, all of those things add up over time and will alter that sound ever so slightly. And if you're as daft as we are, you continue to go hunting to try and get that signal path to sound how we all think it should do. There's some pretty good replicas out there. What a fantastic year that must have been for you to meet Brian, have him play your stuff, and then him return the favour and let you play his guitar.
It was. So there were exactly 3 months in between, because he played my guitar on the 23rd of April and we played his on the 23rd of July. Yep. And as I just mentioned, he wrote to me, thank you for playing your guitar, and I'm sorry about the scratches. So I had to write the same back to him, of course. So thank you for playing, that I could play your guitar. I'm sorry for the scratches. Shame he didn't reply to that one, but
no.
I'm not sure if it reached him, because he probably gets a lot of email and it goes through a filter named Gem. So
I'm
no
sure
problem.
He might have read it and then chuckled to himself, and then
or I pissed him off.
And then carried on. Well, one of the possibly one of the main not one of the main aims. One of my aims for the podcast is to end up with Brian May and the Red Special on the Red Special Guitar Podcast. So if I ever do get him on, Gerben, I'll ask him if he received that email and see what he says. But yeah, if anyone out there listening knows how I can get hold of Brian or knows a way of getting him to listen to the podcast so we can hear what it's all about and that we're all very genuine and we have a love of him, his dad, and the guitar they created, then please do pass on the details and email me at redspecialguitarpodcast@gmail.com with those details so I can get him on the podcast. But no, Gerben, you've been very lucky there. Very lucky indeed.
Yes.
Another reason not to hate you too much. And then...
Still love you too.
Yeah, I know. And then fast forward a few years and you came, meetups went away a little bit for a time. Won't necessarily go into the details of why. And then you showed up in Thiel in Reading in whatever year it was at the Calcott Hotel for a brand new set of meetups.
Yes, true.
How did you find those?
Yeah, I think you've done a great job organizing them.
I wasn't fishing for compliments, but thank you.
You were.
Oh, maybe.
No, I think, no, seriously, I think you did a great job. They've been really nice, the past few meetups, and they've been really diverse. We've been meeting some new faces, some new friends coming along. I think the hotel is a very nice place. The hall we play is a good venue as well. So fantastic to me.
We seem to have found a nice groove, haven't we? It's
yes.
It's a nice. It sort of feels comfortable now. So that I think the first one was always a bit nerve-wracking, but we got lucky with Andy Guyton turning up with the restoration video, which again was another treat that I wouldn't imagine you would get at any other kind of guitar-loving fan club. Andy Guyton, for those of you that don't know, who made 50 replicas and is currently making 21 Time Warp replicas. He had filmed a video of him restoring the original Red Special in 2016, and he brought the video along with him to show us for a one time only, so you'd only get to see it if you're in the room. And I've never heard a room so quiet and seen so much focus on the screen as watching that video.
Absolutely. It was the most exciting thriller movie we've ever seen, I think. Yeah.
No, it's pretty cool. But no, it's it's been fun. And it's great that you come over. It's one of the highlights of my year is the meetup weekend, and it's not just about the meetup to me. It very much, as you said, it's about the people that come. And you're one of I love seeing everyone, but it's very nice to know that you want to take all that effort and trust in me to put something on to turn up from the Netherlands each year. And it's always nice to see you when you turn up. Even if you give me mugs with my face on.
I couldn't find a picture with just a transporter on it, so sorry.
Yeah, a mug on a mug. Say. No, it's you've had a great story, Gerben, so far. And what's next on your list of things to purchase? What's next on the Peter Michalowski Gerben you must purchase this next list?
May I say it's not Brian May related?
You can, but I'll stop recording the podcast. No, go for it. What is it?
Fair enough.
No, not at all. What is it?
I'm thinking about an Ernie Ball silhouette.
Okay.
That's always been a dream guitar of mine, and maybe I should go for that one finally.
Yeah, well, I think it's probably the best part of 20 years of Red Specials now. Maybe time to buy another guitar.
Yeah, I've got a few other guitars, but I'm not playing in a Queen tribute band. I tried to form a tribute band a few years ago, but it's it's not very easy in the northern part of the country to form a band. Not that many Queen fans, I think, which are musicians. So that I didn't manage to do that. So I don't really need a second Red Special, because just for at home, it wouldn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
So I'm also a big John Mayer fan, to be honest. So I rather play a beautiful Strat on my Fender amp as well. I also like doing that.
Nice. And if you could give, so hypothetically, if you could go back in time and give young Gerben, who's just about to pay his 50,000, I can't remember what the currency you said was.
Guilders.
Guilders to young Gerben, has just got the loan from his mum. What one piece of advice would you give yourself about this journey you have ended up on?
I think I just would have done the same.
Yeah, fair enough.
The whole life is a journey to me. So that not everything is perfect the first way. That's just normal, and it's just part of the journey. And it's all about trial and error, and fall and get up again. So it's been a good journey, and I'm really thankful for that, and for all the experiences as well. I think I have no rights to complain about anything on this subject. I mean, beautiful experiences, met a lot of beautiful people, see you guys every year. It's good.
A very good answer. Well, I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you very much, Gerben, for your time today. It's been great catching up with you. Sorry it wasn't in the meetup hall in Thiel, but I'm sure I'll talk to you again and get you on another podcast, and we can look over some of the other specific details of your rig at some point. But thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you very much as well. Thank you for asking me as well. Been very kind.
Well, I asked everyone else first, and they all said no, so I had to pick you, didn't I?
Yeah. So you had to ask like 4,000 members on the Facebook forum. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was the only one who liked to do it. Okay, I get it.
There you go. No, not at all. You were on my hit list for one of the first few. Mainly, my list has been decided upon who I like speaking to. So, yeah. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that out loud, because there's now people that I speak to that haven't been asked yet. Will go, well, you're speaking to these people. Does he not like them? But no, Gerben, thank you ever so much. It's been great talking to you and learning a little bit more about your story. And let's catch up again soon for another chat.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, and speak to you soon.
And that was Gerben. What a fantastic story, Gerben. You've certainly crafted your own way into getting to Brian May and playing the original guitar, and having Brian play through your kit, what a fantastic story. Yeah, thank you again for your time. It's always great to speak to you, and it was nice to actually spend an hour or so just chatting to you just on my own rather than at the meetup, where it's quite difficult to catch up. Now, at this point, I'd like to remind everyone of my Get Brian May on the Red Special Guitar podcast campaign, where my campaign is the ultimate goal is to get Brian May and the Red Special to appear on the podcast to talk to me about how... well, whatever we can come up with. And I'm sure if that ever happens, I will let you all know in advance. You can send in questions, and we can try and make that a fantastic episode. But if anyone knows a route to Brian, how to get to someone that he knows, or has an idea of how we might be able to achieve that, then please hit me up or send me an email, and let's see if we can make that happen. And that's pretty much it for this week's episode. I'd like to thank you all again for taking your time out to listen to me. I'd like to thank all my guests for their time. I'd like to thank my patrons for helping support the channel, and I'd like to thank Brian and Harold May once again for building the Red Special and inspiring all of this. Stay safe, everyone, and I'll catch you in the next one.